Hi everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and today we've got the pleasure of watching mavihortlak playing in their ShPTK, aka the TVP 100, and by the end of this game you will be saying, I can't believe they did this. It's an absolutely ridiculous game where a tier 8 tank is practically having like a tier 11 impact. Just take a look at the health bars at the top of your screen right now and take into account what the end achievement is going to be by mavihortlak here inside this incredible round of World of Tanks. So let's talk about the TVP 100 to start things off with. This vehicle is the only Czech tank destroyer in the game, although as many of you have seen on the super test, it's looking like there might be a tier 10 Czech tank destroyer going into the game, and whether it's going to be a whole new line or whether it's going to be just an assembly shop tank, I'd probably think it's an assembly shop tank, otherwise we'd be seeing other vehicles being tested on the super test. And yeah, I think it's about time that we had a tank destroyer as an assembly shop tank. It definitely will mess up the matchmaker a lot if that does happen. And it's looking like I think it's called like the DBV 152 or something. I can't exactly remember the name. But it's looking like it's a Gorilla with 770 alpha that sacrifices a little bit of the finesse to be able to gain a little bit of armor compared to a Gorilla, so that you're still going to get penned, but you're not going to get penned by high explosive rounds. So, mavihortlak here is using a really full firepower build here for the TVP 100. They've got a gun rammer inside the firepower slots. They're getting 11.5% rate of fire. And then on top of that, they decided to use a bounty aiming device. So they're improving their accuracy by, I think, about like 7%. And this is already an accurate tank. So to be improving that accuracy further, yeah, it really allows the TVP to be a god tier sniper in that regard. Now, the funny thing about the TVP is that while it does have awful alpha damage, its rate of fire kind of more than makes up for this at tier 8. And it has some of the best penetration, best rounds, I'd say. It might have the best ammo, like tier for tier in the game when I think about it. AP rounds with 270, so you've got all the flexibility to go through space protection there. Then you've got heat rounds with 330 at tier 8. That's as good as kind of like the really big gun on the Borsig. I don't think there are many tier 8 TDs that can get that high. And also, it gets high explosive rounds with 100 millimeters of penetration, and the alpha damage goes from 250 up to 420. To let you know how crazy that is, I think with high explosive rounds, this vehicle has better damage per minute than a Tortoise, or better damage per minute than a Badger. It might actually be the highest damage per minute in the game with just any kind of ammunition. But of course, that does require you to be consistently landing your shots with only 100 millimeters of pen, otherwise you are going to struggle. Alright, so mavihortlak here, now just preparing this ridge line for some shots. Their team are down by like 5,000 hit points, but they do have pressure on the cap, so if the XM66F doesn't manage to get there in time, they're going to end the game in about 30 seconds. Mavi is managing to try and do, not sure this is the kind of mission you want to be doing with this tank. A blocking damage? We'll have to see whether they're able to block another 300 damage in this battle. The TVP, for all of the firepower that it does have, it doesn't really have very good armor. But look at what Mavi's going to do here to this G-Saw. 1 shell in for 400, 2 shells in for 400. He's reloading just so quickly here. Is he going to 4-shot a tier 9 medium tank? Well, not quite a 4-shot, but when you reload this quickly, does it matter? I guess not. It loses 245 extra hit points because they're unable to hit that extra HE shell on the G-Saw there, but still, not a bad effort. Mavi's team is down by 6,000 hit points, even they're up to 4,000 damage. And this is really where the ShPTK is just one of the most dangerous tanks in the game for if it's allowed to farm. This thing's damage per minute is insane, and this VK is very focused on the cap circle here. Probably expected that the tier 9 medium tank on the enemy team was going to be able to finish off the tier 8 Czech tank destroyer, but as they've been unable to do so, now Mavi is just going on free farm. So they're going to go forwards into the bush, pull back behind the bush, so the bush is now opaque, so they're going to be able to shoot through it without getting spotted by the VK here. And oh, farm alarm. One more shot. Is it going to be blind? Is that going to be the VK out? Oh, don't have time to worry about that because there's a Gonzalo behind firing an HE shell for 500, and suddenly our hero is down to 83 hit points. Interestingly, mavihortlak hasn't decided to take Adrenaline Rush on this tank, but then again, there are probably better crew skills you could be taking on this vehicle. Such as the shell tuning, intuition, so you can switch out nicely between the fantastic sets of ammunition this vehicle has, and a variety of others. Okay, so now Mavi has the side of a T95, and they've run out of AP rounds, so they're going to have to start to fire gold rounds now. Now, the gold rounds are going to be bad against the space protection on the side of the T95, but will easily be able to go through the upper part of that tank. Mavi has done enough damage where you'd probably get a high caliber in a tier 10 tank, but Mavi's in a tier 9 matchup in a tier 8 vehicle and still has a lot left to do. So just trying to find out what this T95 is doing. They're moving ever so slowly towards the cap circle. Is that a T95 that doesn't know what a turbo is? Well, if that's the case, man, welcome to 2024. Is Mavi going for HE shells here on the back of the T95? It looks like they're not actually penning, or they're rolling incredibly low. 364 and 320. That one just 364 again. What is Mavi's luck right now? These are meant to be doing 420. Well, either Mavi was roll lowing or low rolling like a very unlucky lad there, but they still managed to get rid of most of that T95's hit points in 4 shots, doing 360 damage every kind of like 4 seconds or so. That's absolutely devastating if you can manage to get the HE shells in this tank. Now Mavi up to 4 kills and 7,000 damage in the first 6.5 minutes in this game. They find themselves in a 1 versus 3 against a heavy tank who, albeit is unspotted, and 2 tank destroyers, of which the Hori is at 300. Well, they were, now they're at 200. Oh, after taking 267 damage, they're at 63 hit points. Hopefully Mavi can get one more shot, but these heat rounds, they won't be able to go through those little walls. So Mavi's going to switch to an HE round, knock the building down. Is he going to quickly go to a heat round again to see if he can find the Hori? Yep, intuition switch. Oh no, not even an intuition switch there. Or at least it looked like they did, but I'm not sure if we've got a UI bug at the bottom. We're just going to have to see based on either the shell tracer color. Did you realize in World of Tanks you can actually tell what rounds your opponents are firing by the color of the shell tracer, although you'd have to be pretty eagle-eyed for that. Alright, so Mavi now knows that the Hori's still in the cap circle. The Kalana could be anywhere right now, and we're just going to have to find out what kind of hit points the Kalana's in. Alright, so Mavi finds the Hori 2, crests the ridge, finishes off the Hori 2, and now their 1 versus 3 becomes a 1 versus 2. Well, it looks like both of the enemy are still on full hit points. Alright, so where is this KB4 likely to be? Well, you know, my spidey senses would be tingling, or should I say my bot senses would be tingling right now. If the KB4 hasn't been spotted 8 minutes into a round, it's kind of likely that they're going to be AFK, and I think Mavi is expecting this as well. They're going to go drive towards where the enemy team spawns, and they're just going to be hoping that they're going to find an AFK KB4. But even if they find an AFK KB4, Mavi, with their last 83 hit points, has managed to farm up the whole of a T95, most of a Hori 2, and will still have to duel a Kalana as well. And there's the KB4. Okay, you've got to be very careful in these scenarios, because when you shoot bots, sometimes they actually respond and start to aim at you, but luckily that doesn't look like that's the case. And also, Mavi has to be careful about the Kalana, because now the Kalana clearly knows where Mavi is going to be, and so that means that their duel against a non-AFK tank is going to be all the more tense. So far in this game, even before Mavi... Oh, that's an automatic fire extinguisher on an AFK player. Ooh, that's pretty disgusting. Mavi finishes them off. Looks like with an HE shell there, with the last 56 hit points. I actually noticed they did 23 with the previous shot. Oh no, that was 23 in a fire, I guess, to be able to roast that KB4. So up until this point, even before the AFK farm there, Mavi was up to like 7,500 damage. It's an incredible round. I can't believe they've managed to put their team on the back. And now they're going to have to fight a duel against one of the most dangerous tank destroyers in close quarters combat. That's the Kalana. Although, to be fair, one of the reasons why the Kalana is so dangerous is probably because it's got 700 alpha damage in close quarters combat, right? So when you're on 83 hit points, does it really matter if they have 700 alpha or they have 100 alpha? Well, yes, it does. It's actually advantageous in this scenario because it means the Kalana is going to have a longer reload. So it looks like Mavi is nervous. They're zooming in, they're zooming out, they're zooming in, they're zooming out. I can only imagine their heart going about the prospect of possibly getting, and it doesn't look like they've quite realized they've spotted the Kalana there. Okay, now they have. pull back behind the bush. You're not spotted. Come on. Start your duel against the full health Kalana with a 262 hit point shell. And another one right into the hull armor of the Kalana. Is Mavi going to take the risk that the Kalana blind fires them there? I would have liked to have seen them go forwards into that bush a little bit quicker to see if they could keep the spots on the Kalana. There's the Kalana again. Mavi's going to fire. Hits the top of the tank. The Kalana also hits themselves on the ground for 191 hit points. And now, ladies and gentlemen, this incredible round of World of Tanks where Mavi has pretty much done the impossible, nearly 10,000 damage in a tier 8 tank, and all they have to do is just go down the slope and make the flanking play against the Kalana. Easy. Yeah, did any of you see that coming? I certainly didn't when I first watched this replay. Oh my goodness gracious. mavihortlak. Oh, those rocks, dude. The rocks, the slope catching you there. Unfortunately, the auto flip not quite quick enough to save you from the Kalana having to turn 90 degrees. And almost with just the gun barrel up in the air. This wasn't a surrender, though. This was one of the biggest oofsers and heartbreaks I have seen in World of Tanks history. Just imagine, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, you've done 10,243 damage, 6 kills, 1,690 base experience for a loss? That, if Mavi had won, they would have got like 2,400 base experience in this game. And most of that damage, like over 2/3, 70% of that damage was done from a distance of less than 300 meters. This was an incredible game for a TVP. Mavi makes 116,000 credits profit even after a very large resupply of running out of AUP shells. But oh my goodness, mavihortlak. This was one of the biggest heartbreaks I've ever seen in World of Tanks. I can imagine the sweats, the nightmares that you must have had after this. Happens to the best of us on slopes like that. It was the correct play to flank in that scenario, especially with the TVP only having 6 degrees of gun depression. Mavi, my heart goes out to you, but still congratulations on a 10,000 damage game. And thank you so much for uploading it on the QuickyBaby.what-record.com website for the community to enjoy. And just to remind you all, if you all have some incredible games like Mavi did today, then go over to What Record and the QuickyBaby section of the website to let me know that you want to be featured on YouTube. Anyway, ladies and gents, I really hope you enjoyed this one as much as I did. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you hated it, give it a thumbs down. And let me know in the comments down below, what was your biggest heartbreak in World of Tanks and why? And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.